Well, folks, following on from last week's international break, we're back onto the Premier League season and onto the DJ Living's Fantasy Premier League. Right, after this weekend's fixture list coming back after the international break, we have got some big scores in the league. The biggest score is 103 from Daniel Madubula. He's down in 13th place at the moment, but 103 points. It's really pushing up the table. I think he's I don't know how many places he's got, but he's definitely got a few, probably a half dozen or so, if not more. Up at the top of the table, it's a little bit of a change. We've had the top three all managed to get over 80 points this week, and Gary Britton is still in the lead, got 83 points. We had a couple of 100 points in the top 10 as well, with Narangrit Srisuk and Kev Larkey, both got 102 points. So there's a few movers and shakers this week. Right, folks, now let's look at the fixtures rundown from last week. So Spurs were headed their first defeat of the season in the North London derby with a 3-1 win to Arsenal. Kane and Jesus both getting on the score sheets if you've got either of them two strikers. And Emerson Royal was sent off as well for Spurs. If you've got him, sorry, that's going to be a few negative points for you there. Bournemouth 0-0, Brentford, not a very entertaining game as I didn't think it would be, and Leeds Villa's also 0-0. Chelsea managed a 2-1 win over Palace. Newcastle got a 4-1 win over Fulham. Newcastle managed to get a few goals this week. Liverpool, their poor season is continuing. They only managed a 3-3 draw with Brighton. We did have, though, Trossard scored a hat-trick in that game for Brighton, and Firmino managed 2 for Liverpool. So, not great for defenders or goalkeepers, but obviously good on the forward front. Southampton 1, Everton 2. Then we had West Ham 2-0 over Wolves. Good game that for good performance there for West Ham. Getting a couple on the score sheet was well deserved, well earned, and well needed. Man City, obviously Man City Man United game, I'm sure everyone's heard that result, 6-3. Haaland getting his third hat-trick of the season already. He's miles ahead. Michael Owen, I think, was 48 games. He was the quickest before this in Premiership history for 3 hat-tricks. He's managed it in 8 games. He's unstoppable. Phil Foden obviously also getting a hat-trick for Man City. And in Phil Foden's hat-trick, Haaland had 2 assists as well. Like I said, Leeds Villa was a 0-0, and then Leicester got that first win of the season, and it was a 4-0 win over Forest. Battle of the basement too. This put Forest now in the bottom position, but Leicester 4 goals. Maddison got 1 or 2, I can't remember now, but he's off the score. He got 2 goals, so he's off and running. A bit of news to come out of them games though. Obviously after the West Ham Wolves game, Wolves sacked their manager, so I think he's the second victim this year so far. Wolves are not performing well, not performing to their standards they have done in the past. They've got some decent players in their squad as well, but just not performing for the manager. Man City, they're the only unbeaten team in the league now, following that 6-3 victory, and I can't see him being stopped anytime soon. Right, let's look at some of the top players. I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. Haaland at the top, 96 points, with Kane number 2 with 56 points, a whole 40 points behind Haaland after 9 weeks of the season. Third, De Bruyne with 53, then Trossard with 52 after the hat-trick at the weekend. He's really pushed him forward. Foden getting 51 after his hat-trick, and Tony still hanging in there with 48 points. Right, now let's look at the team of the week. Right, folks, team of the week this week, we'll start off in goal with a bit of a surprise one. The Leeds goalkeeper, Meslier, don't know how to pronounce it, 11 points after getting a clean sheet against Villa at home. In defence, we've got a Kera. There's a few tricky names, forget me, I've pronounced them wrong. Kera from West Ham United got 10 points after their clean sheet. Senesi from Bournemouth got 9 points after their clean sheet. Then Connor Cody also got 9 points for Everton. Everton have got a good defensive record this year, even though they're not really doing that well points-wise for the season. And then we've got a three-way tie. I know I always said we wouldn't do this, we'd do it on the value, but these three players all cost 4.4 million. One thing I would add as well, all these defenders this week are all very good value for money. Not as necessarily week in, week out, but if you had them in your team, you might have picked up some valuable points for cheap money. These three are Young from Aston Villa, Smith from Bournemouth, and Castagna from Leicester, all getting 8 points. So that's the defence. Midfield, no surprise after that hat-trick, Trossard managed 20 points to be the best midfielder this week. Foden getting 19 points with his hat-trick, and then Maddison in third place with 18 points after his 2 goals. Up front, Haaland, obviously 23 points if you had him as skipper, and even if you had him as triple captain this week, you'd have had a good result. Firmino with his 2 goals got 12 points. And rounding off the team of the week this week is Martial from Manchester United, who managed 10 points following his 2 goals in the defeat against Man City. Right, Bournemouth are at home to Leicester. That could be a good game now, especially Leicester have got that win under their belt with a 4-0 win. That's got to give them a bit of a boost. So Leicester could hopefully start to turn the corner. So that'd be a trickier game than Bournemouth than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Chelsea Wolves. Wolves at the moment are managerless. And let's see what happens by the time they actually play that game. But still, I think that's going to be an easy win for Chelsea. Man City Southampton. No one's going to stop Man City, in my opinion, unless, like I said, unless they start to get complacent, thinking this is an easy ride, start to rest a few players, and they could get caught out. And Southampton are the kind of team that do catch a lot of other teams out for that very reason. Newcastle Brentford. Newcastle are at home. They're performing very well. He's got them performing now, scoring a few goals, so I think that's going to be a win for Newcastle, but probably a scoring win. So I think both teams will score that game. Hopefully Tony will get a goal or 2 because he's in my team. West Ham now home to Fulham. Same again after that win for West Ham and another clean sheet. I think Mitrovic is still a doubt for that game. So if Mitrovic is not fit, Fulham will struggle in their attack, and West Ham will probably get an easy win that game. Brighton Spurs. Brighton started off the season not too badly. They've still got some really good players. The new manager is in place now. Trossard obviously coming off the hat-trick. They've got Gross. They've got some really good players in their Brighton team. Spurs obviously after that last defeat, hopefully they'll be able to bounce back and should pick up that win. Crystal Palace Leeds. This could be another snoozer. Another 0-0, 1-1, 1-0 to either team. It's too tight to call, but if I had to make a call, I'd probably say 0-0 in this game. Arsenal-Liverpool. Big game for Liverpool. Their season is on the downward spiral, and they've got Arsenal away and then Man City at home in the next 2 games. So if they don't manage to get a point out of these next 2 games, at least a point, if not 3, then they're going to struggle for the rest of the season, I think. But Arsenal, I think, will be too strong for them. They're really performing well this year, Arsenal. Even as a Spurs fan, which I don't like to say, Arsenal are really putting a title challenge in this year, so I think Arsenal will win that game. Everton United. United obviously come off that 4 wins and then that defeat against Man City. Bit of an anomaly. We'll see what happens in the next game, see if they can bounce back from that City defeat and beat Everton. But Everton are a bit, like I said, they just won the last game. They're very good defensively, Everton. So we'll see what happens in that game. So I'm going to go with a score draw. Forest and Villa the last game. Forest obviously now bottom of the table following that 4-0 defeat by Leicester. Aston Villa, they're a hot and cold team. You never know which team's going to turn up. Steven Gerrard is doing okay there, but not really pulling up trees. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens in that game. But I'm going to go for a Villa win anyway. And lastly is my players to watch out for this week. Starting goal with Jordan Pickford. He's surprisingly cheap at 4.5 million, which isn't too bad for a goalkeeper. And Everton have got the best defence in the league at the moment, despite being in the bottom half. And they're home to United. So I think the fact they've got the home field advantage just gives them a bit more. And like I say, Pickford he's performing quite well from all accounts. So even at club level this year. So Pickford's probably going to be my pick this week. Fofana at Chelsea is my defender. 4.4 million, which I think is very cheap for a guy of his ability. They're at home to Wolves. Wolves have only scored 3 goals this season. Says it all, really. I think Chelsea should get a clean sheet there. I mean, there's other defenders and goalkeepers there. I mean, Reece James would probably be the one to pick if you got a bit more money. But for 4.4 million, definitely worth a shout. Midfield, we've got Rodrigo from Leeds. He's back from injury. He played last week. He's valued at 6.3 million, which is middle of the road, maybe a little bit upper middle. Obviously started the season so well until he had that 3 or 4 games off. Performed last week, didn't score, didn't necessarily perform greatly, but if he can recreate that early season form again, he should get some good points this week. They are away to Palace. And then my last one, my up front guy, same again, he's not really a cheap buy, but 7.2 million for Ollie Watkins at Aston Villa. They're obviously away to bottom Forest, who have conceded 21 goals in 9 games. There's only Leicester that have conceded more, and most of that come from the 1 game. So I think Ollie Watkins could be a good shout for the players to look out for up front. Right, folks, I think that's it for this week. Let's look forward to a full fixture list this coming weekend and see if there are any more movers and shakers. I think there's a few more people now got good ideas of players to put in and out. You start to see a bit more of players' forms coming in now after that first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, and the international break now gone. So we'll see how the season progresses, but it's looking good so far. There's probably at least a dozen teams, if not more, that can still win it. And like I say, if you haven't joined it already, still time to do it. Even if you're starting from 0 points, we can look at your progression throughout the season, and then next year you can hit the ground running. So come along and join. We're still getting people joining all the time. Obviously, if you've got a team already in another league, you can always join our league, and your points will be crossed straight over. So come along, have some fun. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, guys. Give us a subscribe if you haven't already, and share if you're enjoying these videos. Take care, guys. Follow those fixtures at the weekend, and I shall see you next week for the roundup.